Hello and welcome to Deborah Hanson Read With Me. I'm Deborah Hanson. Today we are going to do a chapter summary for 14 and 15 of Chains by Laurie Halse Anderson. So these are just quick summaries. So I'm just going to go through a couple of the main points of each chapter, and I'll give you a few good quotes that you can use in case you're doing a book talk or an essay. This obviously doesn't replace reading the chapter. So if you have a time to read the chapter, please do that. If you want to hear me read each chapter in full, I have those on my channel as well, and I'll also do summaries as I read along with the chapters. So that's probably the best really idea, but if you're short on time or you have a test tomorrow and you want to just review, this is a great way of doing that. So here we go. We're going to start with chapter 14. Okay, so in chapter 14, so this is kind of an important chapter because this is where we really start to see what is happening with Mr. Lockton, Elihu Lockton, and how he's sort of plotting against the Patriots. So Mr. Lockton has an important meeting in the library. Even the mayor himself has attended. We can kind of infer here that all these loyalists that are together are plotting against the Patriots. Madam Lockton's not so super impressed that her husband's asked her not to disturb him, and she won't let her listen in on the conversation. She's a nosy person. And so then she takes it upon herself that she's going to try and get in there and try and see what's going on. So she gets Isabel to serve food and drinks, and she tries to get her foot into the door, but he promptly tells her to leave. She doesn't want to be rude, but she wants to actually see what's going on. So as they're going in with the large tray of wine and food, she's trying to peek and she's trying to see what's going on and who's in there and what they're talking about. But he won't have any of it. Mr. Lockton just makes her leave, but he does invite Isabel in to serve the gentleman. One of the guests explains that their plan to bribe some of the Patriots hasn't gone too well because they're just not buying what they're selling. So you could see that the Patriots now are getting stronger, and the loyalists the British are getting a little nervous. This is a pivotal time in history because this is when the Continental Congress is close to declaring independence. And I'll talk a little bit more about the historical side of that later on, just in case you are doing this for history class and not English class. The loyalists decide that the only way to stop the Patriots is to assassinate their leader, General George Washington. Lockton really realizes that this is a dangerous proposition, right? Because of course, if he is caught, he'll be hung for treason. So he's got to be really careful. So he gets everybody in the room to sign a paper basically saying that they are in on this plot, and that if the Patriots come after him, he says, I'm going to show them the paper and you're all going to hang with me. So you can see it's kind of like an insurance policy at this point. Isabel, who's in the room, she's staying quiet as a mouse, listening to absolutely everything that they're saying, because of course she's a slave, so she's invisible to them. They would never ever suspect that she would be listening to their conversation, that she would want to know what's going on. So she kind of just like blends with the furniture basically. She knows that everything she hears in this room is going to be valuable, and this could secure her freedom, which is of course her ultimate goal. The end of the chapter comes with a deathly scream from the kitchen. Now what? Okay, so let's see. So let me show you some of the quotes that I think you could use if you were having a discussion or using from an essay. The mayor set his goblet on the desk. The time for bribery and persuasion is past. This is the hour when we must unsheath our swords. So this is where he's talking about the assassination of General Washington, that it's time to stop, just bribing. We need to start putting these guys to death and showing them we mean business. But then there's Isabel. I am a bookcase, I thought, a piece of furniture, not a girl who'll remember every word spoken in this room. This is super important because, again, she's invisible to them and she knows that. So she's using that to her advantage. Remember, Isabel is really smart. I mean, she can read. She's got an amazing memory. She wants freedom, and she's going to do whatever she can. And really, when you think about it, this girl is probably only about 13 years old. So that's pretty incredible. We must kill your commander, that's in reference to General Washington. So these are the pages 89 and 90 in the book that I'm reading. You may have a different book, but it'll be in the vicinity. So you can probably find that if you have a different book. Mine is the paperback book. Write down the names of those who know of this plot. The paper will serve as my insurance should I fall into rebel hands again. It will motivate you and your friends to do everything possible to secure my release. That was on page 91, and that's in reference to the document he has signed. Just in case he gets caught, he says everybody's going down with him. So again, that's pretty much Mr. Lockton, right? Okay, so important historical reference here. They do talk about the Continental Congress and the Declaration of Independence. So if you are doing this for history class, I know a lot of history teachers in our school use chains in that way as well. So you might have to make some historical references in your discussions. So basically, the Continental Congress was a group of delegates who worked together to act on behalf of the North American colonies in the 1770s, beginning with the Sugar Act in 1764. You've probably studied this. The British Parliament passed a series of laws that were unpopular with many colonists in North American colonies. The British were trying to get money back because the 7-Year War had cost them quite a bit of money. So they were trying to recoup some of their losses by basically taxing the colonists. And they were pretty heavy-handed with it. And they were really starting to get on the nerves, basically, of the American colonists who really just wanted to be free of all of this nonsense. In 1774, it kind of came to a head when the British passed what they called the Coercive Acts, but it was actually the colonists referred to as the Intolerable Acts because they really were intolerable. So they included closing the port of Boston, establishing British military rule in Massachusetts. They also had the Quartering Act, where they had to they forced the colonists to house military personnel from the British side because, again, it was going to save them money. It was really all about, punishing them for the famous Boston Tea Party, where, the colonists threw all the tea in the Boston harbor in protest of all the taxes that they were getting. Britain hoped to isolate the rebels in Massachusetts and dissuade other colonies from similar acts of defiance. So they were really putting the pressure on to stop the spread of, this patriotism. So from the Patriots. The first Continental Congress represented all 13 colonies except for Georgia, and included some of the finest leaders in the land. These are some names that I'm sure will come up in your history class: George Washington, Patrick Henry, John Adams, Samuel Adams, and John Jay. The group elected Peyton Randolph of Virginia as its president. This was before the Declaration of Independence that happened in July. And in this chapter, it's June of 1776. So it's coming. So that's going to be a precursor. So again, you're going to see a lot of references to historical situations that actually happened, just the American Revolution. So this is probably why your history teacher is making you read this if you are. So let's go on to chapter 15 now, the summary of chapter 15. So here, remember at the end of the chapter 14, we had the blood-curdling screams coming from the kitchen, and Isabel knew something was up. So Madam thinks the devil's in the kitchen. Of course, she's being overly dramatic as usual. We learn that Ruth is having a seizure, and is on the floor. Madam thinks that she's possessed by the devil. Madam hits her with a broom to try to let the devil out. Ruth is helpless, of course, and knows. And now we know that Isabel will not be really happy with this scene as she walks in. Now, of course, we know that. Of course, now in modern day medicine, we know that she was probably having an epileptic seizure, not being possessed by the devil. But back then, of course, that was not really known. So people just thought that they were possessed by the devil. Mr. Lockton is not too happy that this meeting was interrupted by these screams. He and Madam Lockton get into an argument about selling Ruth on account that she's obviously possessed by the devil. But Mr. Lockton says, listen, we need her. She's staying. She's harmless. Case closed. I'm going back to my meeting. Stop bothering me, woman. That's pretty much what it was. Here's some good quotes. And this is actually from the beginning of the chapter. It's the devil, Madam screamed as I opened the door to the kitchen. Ruth had fallen at her feet and lay there, her body shaking violently. Peas were scattered on the floor. She has the devil in her. No, madam, it's an illness, I cried. An ailment, nothing more. The child's curse will poison us all. I want her sold, Elihu, sold today. So this is the whole scene in the kitchen. She's really upset. Elihu comes out of the library. There's that argument, and she wants her sold, but he says no. He puts his foot down, and we know who the boss is in that house. So the girl is harmless and useful, he says. She will work in the kitchen with Becky. That's my decision. Do not disturb me again with womanly prattle. Don't let her near the milk. She'll curdle it, and don't get used to her presence here. Elihu will soon see reason. So we know how Miss Lockton is, and she's not happy right now, and I'm sure she's going to be making Ruth and Isabel's life extremely miserable until she gets her way. But that is the end of that chapter. So stay tuned. We'll do the next chapters in another video. And like I said, if you want to hear the full chapter, just check out my site. I have all of the chapters read out loud with some commentary and summaries. Thank you so much for listening. If you like my channel, please subscribe. My students do love to see the numbers go up. It's always a discussion in the class when I get a little jump. So thank you very much. And if you have any questions, please do so in the comments. I answer everybody. So if you have any specific questions, whether it's history or English related, I do teach both. So I can help you with anything you have questions with. Have a great day. Thank you.